You were listening to episode 262 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Brian.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games. We've recently picked up games we're currently playing, and we got to be smart as a fox in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
So this week we are playing Tunic on the Nintendo Switch.
I've been waiting for you to play this one, John.
Yeah, actually, like now that I'm playing it a little bit, I was telling my wife before I was coming in to record. I'm like, I kind of want to keep playing this. Yeah, it's solid. So we'll talk about that here at the end of the podcast episode. But first, we'll go ahead and talk about where you can find us. So find us on the GameDeflators.com, our currently out-of-date website. You can find us on social media at Game Deflators, on X at The Game Deflators, on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads with our 2 posts on Threads. YouTube as well. Search up the Game Deflators on there to find old podcast episodes and some videos when we have them. And you're listening to a podcast app right now, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. And thanks for listening.
Yeah.
All right. Diving into our pickups. It was Black Friday, Ryan, and I will say it was a Black Friday as far as what was actually available for games. I mean, there were some good stuff, things that I had my eye on for a while, but nothing that really kind of stuck out to me as like a deal. You know, there were games I saw, but I was like, oh yeah, that's a game I've been wanting. I'm like, wait a second. It's the same price it was 3 months ago, on sale.
Yeah.
So am I really getting a deal right now? And the answer was no. 9 times out of 10, all the games I was looking at, I was like, no, it's not worth me paying $35 for this game that's been $60-$70 because it was literally just $35 not too long ago. Or Target, for example, has had a buy 2 get 1 free sale or buy 1 get 1. Same thing with GameStop. GameStop had their buy 2 get 1 free deal. They've had those multiple times through the year, and then they had the 50% off new select titles. They've done that multiple times this year. So there wasn't anything that really stuck out to me as a must-have situation that would say, hey John, you need to spend $60, $90, $100, whatever it is, on these select titles that are going to sit on your shelf for months on end. You might as well just wait until they're $10 a pop type of deal, or you can get them even cheaper locally. So I did not pick up any video games. I did at one point. I will say I had VGP, I think is what it's called, that Canadian company that reprints stuff. They had, a 50% off sale, and it's all Canadian dollars on there. And overall, it was decent games, but there was, and we'll get into in our discussion topic, there's nothing that really captivated me as a must have. There was a couple titles price wise. I'm like, hey, this could work. But it kind of came back to am I going to play this? Am I going to play it anytime soon? Is it worth me picking up now? And the answer every time was no. So I did pick up Magic cards though, because that's what I do. And I have built out.
Are there Black Friday Magic card sales?
TCG did a 10% store credit deal. When you purchase cards, you would get the credit back. But I missed out on that. And it wouldn't have mattered anyways. It was I would have got $8 or something when it was all said and done. So yeah, overall, I ended up getting everything I needed for a blue-white control deck because I feel like that's going to be the meta moving forward. Or top of the meta is blue-white control and blue-black-white mid-range or control for those. And I think that's kind of proven in what I've been playing online versus what, I'm playing against. It's all control decks or cards that are just consistently destroying things that are hitting the field. So basically what I'm going to be doing is playing a mill deck is what I'm going to do moving forward for the meta. That to me is going to work best for standard, just given where control currently is.
Take away all their tools.
Yeah, what people are playing for mid-range. There's enough control cards of white and blue that I should be able to do enough board wipes, destroy lands, mill them out, that type of stuff. So I bought the things I needed from the white cards to be able to build out my blue white deck. And then I have multiple options. So if I want to do mill, I could do mill. If I wanted to do just blue white standard control, I could just do standard control and have some creatures here and there. I've got enough stuff to build black blue dredge. I've got stuff to build white green poison with control. So there's a lot of options I have to my disposal right now.
How well does the like descend pair against like a mill deck.
You mean like the discover thing or descend? Oh, descend as in like your graveyard.
Because you're basically like that's a big mechanic, and you're like giving them that permanence in their graveyard.
Well, except in my sideboard, I picked up, I think it's a 2-drop that when he hits the field, you exile the opponent's graveyard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like I have some things in there specifically for dredge, or descend mechanic. But I do know like the guys I play with at the particular store I go to, um, they actually none of them play anything with descend mechanics. They play discover mechanics, but they don't play descend mechanics. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now with it, and I'm pretty excited to see what I can build out of this. And so I did actually finish my red black rat deck, which did not perform that great. So a few of us actually came out. There wasn't enough to really like start a tournament per se. There's a couple old guys that come in, and then myself and one other person, and the two older guys, it's like a dad and his son, and the dad's like 80, by the way. And he straight up has been collecting Magic for years and years and years. He's sold his collection multiple times over the years.
That's the worst. We all do that at least
right.
times.
He said his most recent collection he had sold for like $85,000. I'm like, ouch. Like, and he's had Lotuses and stuff in the past, he said. So
not getting those back.
I mean, the guy's got like, he spends all of his money now. Like whenever a new set comes out, he literally buys cases to get everything he needs to be able to play. And so he figures when he dies, all his cards go to his son. That's kind of where it's at. And his son's like 55, 60 years old, I think. So he's not a young guy either. So they just come in and play, and they will not play if it's anything less than 5 people. Like they won't play a tournament. So we end up playing like some 2-headed giant. And, my deck didn't perform that great, the red black. It just, because of everything else, it's new in the meta. So ultimately just decided, it's not worth playing that. It'll be good for casual play at a table to have some fun with friends, but definitely not tournament worthy. So that was that in terms of pickups for Magic cards. And then I did get a new phone as well. So I'm waiting for that to come in to Best Buy so I can go pick that up. So, yep.
Nice.
That's it on my end. How about...
Did you talk about what you've been playing?
You know what? I did not. So I guess let me... I was going to pass it to you to talk about pickups, but I see you don't have any.
Yeah.
So we started playing Mario Wonder, and I don't know how I feel about it right now.
Yeah, you got the mixies?
Yeah, I'm a little mixed on it. Like to me, I was hoping like there's a lot of color and there's a lot of like interesting things like the seeds that come up. But I don't know. It's just not pulling me in like some of the prior Mario games right now.
Really?
Like, yeah, it's just something about it. It's not like, I don't know. Like I sit back and maybe it's because I've been sick for a couple weeks now and dealing with this like after effects of crap. And I'm just not like 100% in the mood to play it.
Is this like a 2D, 3D thing? Like I know you are a big 2D platformer, but I mean specifically for Mario, do you like prefer 3D Mario to 2D at this point?
I don't know. Maybe. I think you know what it is like I'm following this up after Last of Us Part 2. And
huge swing of emotions.
So yeah, kind of, right? Because I already beat Last of Us Part 2 anyways, but like the type of gameplay that I just experienced with Last of Us Part 2 and graphically where it's at in comparison to a 2D Mario, story-wise where that is at, like it almost makes me want to play another game that's similar, like very much engrossed in story, that third-person view, either shooting or slashing, whatever it may be.
Have you played
like,
Ragnarok?
I have not yet, and I do need to, and it was on sale, but I'm going to hold off on that one. Similar like Horizon Zero Dawn, like or Horizon Forbidden West, like that was on sale, but they just released a complete edition, so I'm going to wait for that one to go down. Yeah, I mean, like those are types of games I want to play right now, and so yeah, I popped in Mario Wonder. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's play this. It's Mario, we'll have some fun with it, and I don't know, like right now, it's just not pulling me in. There's just like it feels like there's something missing to it for whatever reason. Like it's just, I don't know if it's a challenge component because it isn't very challenging at all, or if it's just like it's another Mario game type of thing. It's just not really doing it right now.
I've got something you could do halfway. Have you guys done Uncharted?
Yeah, I beat them multiple times, and my wife has played I think the first two or three. Yeah, so Yeah, I mean, we're
I'd
kind of
say that's
covered.
halfway between Mario and The Last of Us.
Right. No, I'm actually thinking I might get the Tomb Raider or Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Okay.
That's the third one out of the remakes. And that'll probably be like the next one that we play. I just got to pick it up because those are very good. And that it has like what I'm kind of seeking right now.
So are you gonna
And
go all through Mario?
what's that?
Are you gonna go all the way through Mario?
Yeah, we'll beat Mario. We'll go through it. But it's not like we're not sitting there. Like with Last of Us, we were literally sitting there 2-3 hours at a time
Mhm.
playing this, right? Mario, we play like maybe 5-6 levels. And like, okay,
Okay.
like let's watch TV type of deal. So it's not like we're, just jonesing to play Mario the whole
Yeah.
time. So I don't know. It's just something about it. It's not even Donkey Kong games. Like when I've played some of the more recent Donkey Kong games, like I'm really into them, like in what's happening and even like the little bit of story progression that's involved with them or the platforming elements. Like it feels like Mario, there's almost too much going on right now.
Mhm.
Like there's just like the levels just kind of feel smattered. Like there's a level where you hit it and poles come out and you got to follow the different poles and go up and down them or side to side and it's just I don't know, it just feels like there's a lot going on. It doesn't feel like it's platforming to an extent. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's
You
just
feel like they threw too much in. It's like Mario, but like with a smattering of like just wacky WarioWare stuff where it's just like all of a sudden
yeah.
you're doing something totally different every 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And then like you have the elephant, which at this point has served absolutely zero purpose.
But he's fun.
Not really.
I
Like
like the
I
elephant.
like the bubbles. I'll tell you, the bubbles are a lot of fun. Being able to
Mhm.
bounce to different locations and stuff like that type of stuff is fine. But the elephant's not doing it for me. I haven't gotten the drill Mario yet. Um, so I know in what we played, like it's a Mario game and it was fun. It's exciting. It's a hey, look, pick it up because it's Mario. It's not going to go down type of thing. For me personally, it's a little too much right now. What I've
What
gone
about
through.
the badges?
The badges, I feel like so here's what I feel about the badges in playing them. The badges are cool to an extent, but you can only use like one at a time, right? And it's very level specific. So if you go to one level and you might need a certain badge, you kind of have to go through and use that badge to get to a certain area, and you might need another one to beat it, basically, right? Like there's certain things that you can't get unless you have certain badges. And so far, the badges I've picked up, I feel like they're things that should already be on Mario. Like one of them is like, oh, you can double jump a wall twice. Okay, why can't I just do that? Oh, well, you can do a longer jump where you flutter kick like Yoshi. Okay, why can't we just do that? Like why do we need a badge to do those specific things of Mario? To me, it doesn't make sense, the badge system and why it's even there. Like just make it abilities. Like once you get it, you can do those things because the badges aren't anything special so far from what I've gotten. Now, I am only in like the second world, so things could change. My opinion on this might change in a few weeks. Um, but as of right now, it is a little bit much. It does feel a little lackluster going through it. I would still say, is it worth the $60 pickup? Yeah, I mean, if you like Mario, it's not going to go down in price anytime soon. It just came out. So if you like Mario, pick it up and play it. It's Mario. But
Yeah.
to me, it just feels like it's a little much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But we'll see. My opinion, like I said, my opinion might change here pretty soon. And then the other thing I'm playing is Tales of Symphonia. So I got past the forest. I went back to the town and I'm remembering names now. So you got Lloyd and Colette, right?
Yeah.
So you got all that and then and the design. So there's all of that I'm remembering now. Um, but yeah, so I just went to a town and they're like, hey, you just missed Colette. Or no, I went to the dad first, and then we had the whole situation there. We got the like key crest deal that's supposed to help
Yeah.
with something. I don't remember offhand what it is. But yeah, we did all of
That'll
that.
be
And then
important.
what's that?
It'll be important. Don't worry.
Yeah, I figured it will be. But then we went back to town, and then the Designs started burning the town down. And so did a little bit of battling in there, saved, and then that's where I'm at. So a
So
little bit
you
of
played like
progress.
another like 20 minutes?
Uh, I think I'm about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours into the game,
Yeah,
roughly.
okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just how it is, man. Like I'm just and like I said, I've been sick. I'm not even been sick. Now I'm just fighting off a
Yeah.
sinus infection, all that's coming with that. So I'm just wiped. So like by the time, I'm ready to sit down, play some games, I just
Tired.
start falling asleep and I'm tired. And it's just
Yeah.
when you're blowing your nose and coughing crap up all day for the last like 3 weeks, it's just, or 2 weeks, whatever it is, it's just rough. Like, it just sucks.
Yeah,
So it's hard to
I get it.
it's hard to sit back and concentrate. Like, even right now, I'm dehydrated from all of the blowing, dude. It's so
Mhm.
bad. So yeah, that's where we are with that. And then, I mentioned earlier I beat Last of Us Part 2. Yeah, I mean, honestly, what's funny is, like, after we beat it, my wife looks at me and she's like, I kind of wish that Ellie would have died. And like, when you really think about that story, like, yeah, people are pissed off because Joel died and everything else. But when you really think about it, like, who was in the wrong there? It was Joel and Ellie that were in the wrong in the entirety of that story. You know, Abby was 100% justified in what she does in the game. Now, is the character like a likable character? Honestly, playing it a second time around, yeah, actually, I really do like Abby the second time around. In comparison to Ellie, I think Ellie is like a little self-entitled brat at the end of the day. Like, that's what she's painted out to be. And the whole thing of like letting Abby live at the end, and Abby going off, and then Ellie coming back, and she's left alone and all that because of what she's done. Yeah, like, I totally get it now, and I get what Naughty Dog was doing, and I actually really like it when it was all said and done.
Yeah, but now they leave it open so they can make a one where she's the Joel. Old Ellie.
Maybe. Or you follow Lev and Abby, and you play a third game as just them, and your goal is to find the Fireflies.
I don't think so, because like the story is about Ellie. She's the main character of the series.
Well, I mean, arguably half of the
And
game
like
is
having
Ellie, and
her, like, she made choices, and like her differentiating with like Joel, and like seeing her old versus him old. I was just watching somebody else talk about Last of Us the other day. It made me think about you talking about it. I mean, I've never even played most of the first game, let alone the second game.
sounds
So
like New Games Resolution.
no, I don't like that game. I tried to go back and play it. It's not for me. I don't really like the feel of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, really, end of the day, I think that if they are going to do a third one, will they have Ellie involved in some capacity? Maybe. Should it be Lev and Abby? 100%.
Okay.
Like, I would really like to see how that story continues. I feel like Ellie's story is done, right? Like, she ended up alone. She pushed everybody away because of his whole, like, idea of revenge, and revenge ends up getting her nowhere except losing everything that she holds dear. And that's kind of it, right? Like, another thing that I've heard, like, another interesting theory is that, like they continue it where Abby is trying to, rescue Ellie, because Ellie has decided that she does want to sacrifice herself for a cure, and you're trying to like find somebody to kind of figure out the cure, and Ellie's in danger, and you're playing as Abby to try and rescue Ellie. Like, that would also be an interesting
That's
approach
just,
too.
yeah.
I don't know. I
Hadn't
think
thought of that.
I would love to see something like that happen, but it is what it is. They
I
might
just
be
want to
done.
see season 2 of the HBO show.
Yeah, that's true. I want to see that as well. And actually, I'd be interested to see if they like try and do like a third season without any sort of game, and how that would look.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. How about yourself?
So this week I actually played a little bit of Mario Kart. I watched this guy on YouTube, Arlo. He's really good. He was doing a tier list of all the different levels that have been out for Mario Kart, because they're finally done with releasing them all. And there's just so many. So I've been just trying to go through and do all the cups on 150cc now. Just
You're talking
to,
about Mario Kart 8, right? On the
yeah,
Switch?
yeah, exactly. I guess I should have specified. The only one anybody's playing. So it was pretty good, I think. Most of the ones that I've been going through are just like the new released ones, because I have never really been like playing it online much. I got it like a couple years ago and played it a little bit here and there, but man, it's just so good, and I can't imagine how much more they could milk out of that game. I mean, and it has so much content in it now if you've got like the NSO pass for it. But I really think that the people are talking the next Switch maybe launching with a Mario Kart or something because this one's been out for so long. But it's like, what other ideas could you have? Like, how could you make like more of a better Mario Kart than what this is now? It's kind of like the next Smash Bros. Like, how are you going to make another Smash Bros. After what Ultimate was? Like, there's just no way to scale up from there reasonably.
Yeah, I think the only thing with Mario Kart's a little different because it's track focused, right? And racer focused. So you have to pull in X amount of racers, X amount of tracks. So, can you like where does the design come in to make better tracks, right? Maybe it comes down to like almost like a Mario Kart maker where the next
That'd be
one you
crazy.
have that'd be pretty cool. Like it'd be like little what is it? Not Little Big Planet. The
Well,
kart
that
race.
Hot Wheels game that has a track editor.
Well, there's that, and then there is a game on the PlayStation 3. I forget the name of it
Dreams,
offhand. Huh?
Dreams.
No, there's a PlayStation 3 game that's like a kart racer. That Little Big Planet World kart racer where you make your
Mm,
own tracks. So I forget offhand the name of it.
okay.
But yeah, so there's that, and then you obviously have Mario Maker as well. So I mean, if you have some sort of kart racer maker type deal, I think that could actually go well. And then you would put in like pre-made tracks, which is obviously Mario Kart 8 tracks. You just kind of bring it all over and make this all encompassing like online community type deal like you had Mario Maker. I think that'd be an option. And in Smash Bros, I could see a similar situation. I mean, Smash Bros has always had level creation or level design anyways. So I mean, where do you kind of go from there? I'm not sure. It's and how many more like characters can you add to something like that? I really feel like Nintendo in a way shot themselves in the foot by the amount of characters that they have put into Smash Bros to keep it relevant over the lifespan of the Switch. Whereas
Well,
if
and
they
they've
would
been wrecking tournaments and stuff too.
yeah, so like if they would have just kept things like I don't know, like just certain characters, like out and then like used them for a new Smash, that would make sense. But they like loaded everybody in except Waluigi.
Right.
So
So there's
yeah,
always Waluigi they can add next time.
maybe it's Waluigi Smash Brothers in the next, game. It's just all you can only play Waluigi. That's it.
Waluigi and Goku.
Yeah, that's it. Those are the only two characters you could play the
I
entire
really
time.
wanted them to add Lloyd into the game, but they made like a Mii Fighter costume for him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just like you said, I don't know where they go from here.
Yeah. And so yeah, some Mario Kart this week, and then I played a little bit of the backpack battles. I have way too many hours clocked on that game on Steam at this
And
point.
and no hours clocked on Pikmin.
Yeah, I know. Pikmin's coming up. We've got one more month to finish the new games resolution. Gonna time this off perfectly, as always.
Speaking of Steam, I've got to find like some games that you and I can like join together and play. Obviously Backpack Battle is probably not my
Well,
cup of
it's
tea.
not a co-player game.
I thought you were playing with somebody else.
I mean, I have other people that I know that play it, but I mean, it's like
Oh,
asynchronous multiplayer. So like you just do your thing and then you battle other people's pre-made things, but
yeah.
you never really interact.
Well, I mean, since you do play on Steam though, it might be interesting to find a game that like the two of us can jump in on and play a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't really, my computer can't do a whole lot.
that's fine. I don't
So
play like
it's gonna
heavy.
be simple.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been playing Factorio for a while. I got to get back into it, but like that's not a strenuous thing for your PC.
Yeah.
Like I think there might be some stuff out there that we could play together. So there's
I'll
tons of
check it out.
PC games. Yeah, cool.
So this week we're going to talk about genre fatigue, or like you were saying earlier, like you couldn't really find any games that were really tickling your fancy to purchase because you're just kind of like nothing stands out in the market for you right now.
Yeah, it's like just everything just feel like there's nothing groundbreaking right now for me in what's in market. Like nothing that just I see and I go, that is a must have, must play game. Now, obviously, for me, one of my favorite genres is like the Dark Souls style games, right? Like I love that
Mhm.
genre. I'm seeking other games like Wolong, for example. I'm going to go ahead and pick that up when I can. That's a game that I definitely want to play, right? Obviously, you have like Solstice, and I think it's Timeja, I think is the other one. There's a number of games out there that are like that Soulsborne style that I
Mhm.
really like. Like that's just a game genre I really like. Okay, but are there like is every game out there a Soulsborne? Not really. There's a lot that try to be it, but they don't really hit the mark, right? One that I've noticed as of late that has really just kind of, as I see them more, I'm like, so you have roguelites, obviously, and roguelikes. Those are all over the place. It seems like every indie game coming out is one of those. And then Metroidvanias, every single game that I was looking at, I'm like, oh, that's a cool cover. Like, that's a cool name. Let me check out what the game is like, right? Maybe there's something of interest here. Metroidvania. And they're all
Mhm.
the same thing. Like, jump into this like heavy action packed Metroidvania and like go through scores of enemies. But like they're all the same description. They're all the same gameplay. There's some different types of mechanics each of them have, but at the end of the day, they're still a Metroidvania. And it seems like everybody's putting out a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
Like every week, it seems like there's a new one. And so, like, I remember a time when like they first started kind of kicking these out, like, I don't know, 5 years ago, like we started seeing them kind of rise up more. And you had games like Salt and Sanctuary, and you had whatchamacallit,
Hollow Knight's the
Hollow,
biggest one.
yeah, that one. You had a number of those games coming out. It's like, oh yeah, this is really cool, great gameplay, etc. Now it's like, and those games, by the way, when they first came out were like high demand. Blasphemous being another one, like super high demand. Oh, they're like 80, $90. They're limited. There's not a whole lot of them being produced. Well, then you started getting into like the developers were pushing it out to different, avenues. Now you got like $20, $30 versions of those games. And now people are looking for like the first prints type of deal, which is kind of dumb in my opinion. Um, so you've got that going on right now. But now it's like everybody's putting out these Metroidvanias. So it doesn't even feel special anymore. It doesn't feel like there's a new game, new Metroidvanias, like high impact, super cool. Like they're just everywhere. Like every game. Like I look and it's like Metroidvania, action, whatever, Metroidvania, like everything. So as I was going through these game sales, every time I had something that caught my eye, I'm like, okay, what is it? Oh, it's a Metroidvania. Oh, it's 32-bit style. Okay, what's this one? Oh, a Metroidvania. It's 32-bit style. Oh, this one. Oh, it's 16-bit style. And it's a
Mhm.
Metroidvania. Like, eh, I love indie games, but put out more stuff like Tunic. Yeah, so like overall, Metroidvanias are just that's the big one right now. It's really sticking out to me. There are other genres out there. There's tons of new things kind of hit, not new things, but tons of games hitting the market nowadays that, yeah, they're kind of all over the place. Like I said, roguelikes, roadlights, all of that type of stuff. But Metroidvanias are really the one that's just kind of like, please stop. Like I,
Well,
I need a break from all of these hitting the market. And it's fatigue, right? There's just so many that are in the market. You don't know which one to pick up.
mhm.
And at the end of the day, they all have very similar gameplay anyways. So like, are you truly missing out if you don't grab one particular, like, is there anything story driven in these games that is going to put one past the other? Maybe, but I also have to enjoy the gameplay. And if the gameplay is the same every single time, I just don't know that that's worth it for me. Versus when I do play things like the Souls games, um, each of those, yeah, they do have different mechanics or different style, but they're very much like that. Some of them are more like open world, kind of run around and do your thing. Some are a little more landlocked. So there's different aspects of that. And then, of course, the enemies, there's always something different with those enemies.
Yeah.
Versus the roguelite, or not roguelites, the Metroidvania is just all, to me, they just all feel the same. Granted, my opinion could be the same that people feel about like Soulsborne games. So
I mean,
I get
without
it.
really playing them, it's hard to say, what they are or are not doing that's like innovative and changing. And I feel like the soul genre kind of, like Lives of P just came out. We both played like the demo for that, right?
Yeah, we
And
did.
that was pretty well received. People like some of the changes and some of the things that it does a little bit differently. They're still tweaking that genre, but like Metroidvania at this point is pretty, like you said, set in its ways in a lot of ways. I mean, the last one I played was probably the new Metroid for Switch that came out. What was that one? I can't even remember the name of it right now. But I like a good Metroidvania. but yeah, I don't really get into them too often. Metroid Dread. Um, game genres that like I feel are particularly oversaturated right now. I mean, it's it's weird because some genres are super oversaturated and then some are kind of getting less saturated. Like I feel that the live service is really an easy target to, pick on at this point because that whole market is really kind of crashing and recently that Hyenas game fully finished already did like beta tests and then they just canned it. So they're making projects and just not even releasing them because they're tanking so hard and not getting that recurring revenue that's going to support those live service projects. So I think that that's probably the easiest one to pick on. I mean, Call of Duty every year, that's another one that's kind of easy to
Yeah,
pick on, but
yeah.
that's gonna get a big change up here pretty soon now that, like, Microsoft is stepping in. I'm sure that, like, that release schedule is going to be altered moving forward a little bit. I know
But see,
Pokemon, they've
it's kind of
recently come out and said the same thing.
yeah, but see, like games like Call of Duty, Pokemon, all of that,
I
like
guess that's just a franchise, that's not a
yeah,
genre.
yeah, they like and are first person shooters oversaturated? Maybe, but like you have
Not
your
as much as they used to be.
yeah, they used to be really bad, but now they're not. And I mean, you have games like FIFA, Madden, et cetera. It has its like core set of gamers that show out for those games. And yeah, they're updated, you know, once a year essentially. It's the same exact thing, copy paste. But at the end of the day, it's not like there's 10 Maddens that are coming out every single year that are like 10 football games, right? There's not 10 soccer games, there's not 10 hockey games or 10 tennis games or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. It's pretty consistent that it's like those franchises. And the reason for that's obviously there's contractual aspects of it where
Yeah.
EA puts out those games and same thing for like baseball where Sony actually handles that piece of it. So yeah, I mean, there's not as much free reign in something
Yeah.
like that. First person shooters, yeah, you could have some free reign. There could be a number of them out there, but like we kind of know who the big players are for first person shooters and like what those games are, or like the battle royales, what the big players are of that. Like there's not a ton of that. There's a
Well,
bunch
there
out there.
were, you know yeah, no, you're right there, and I mean, then, like, you look at other things like, I mean, you're not super into this Mario right now, but it's not because you're tired of 2D platformers or that there's 100 2D platformers being released a year. I guess it's just that this genre for like Metroidvania, I mean, it's been proven to be really successful on an indie budget and it's really creative in a way that you can make like a whole encompassing world that loops around on each other. You get things that later on help you go back and backtrack so you're not having to create as big of a world because your world is kind of recurring and you have to explore around it over and over again. I mean, a lot of people really like them too. So it is one of those things that I think that maybe, new genres are something that are just needing to be more developed because that one's kind of like really set in stone and set in its ways at this point. I mean, the Vampire Survivor game that came out last year that I really liked. That's starting to get a whole bunch of like new clones. Like there's this new game that's coming out that's kind of like a combination of that and Hades, which is pretty neat. So taking that kind of roguelike progression from Hades with like choosing different powers, but also having that kind of like auto attack, walk around, avoid the mob kind of mentality and play style that you have in the other games. So like I guess indie developers are just probably really latching, and I mean not even just indie, right? Like you're saying that these are like bigger releases too that you were looking through that were like on sales.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, like I wouldn't say they're big developers coming out. I think a majority of what I looked at was indie developers that have put out like these Metroidvanias
But
like
these were
that.
like box release games.
Yeah, like just any game, like yeah, released games at big box stores and such. Like just everything that's hitting the shelves just feels stale.
Yeah.
So, um, I don't think that one is one that my opinion is going to change, unlike the Mario game. I think I'm right now kind of set in stone with my way of thinking on this and like what's kind of coming out. Like you were saying, there's nothing like genre defining right now or like game breaking that's coming out that is just really capturing my attention. A game like Take Two, for example, or It Takes Two, sorry, that we played recently, and obviously that I beat. That to me was like different,
Yeah,
right? That was a different take. Like you had to have this multiplayer component. You had like this world where you were shrunken down and there was all these different elements in what you interacted with and the story was there. And it just felt fresh, right?
yeah.
And nothing out there to me feels like fresh. And if you look at like
Well,
the game of the year, like all the game of the year nominees this year, is there anything there that like feels like a brand new fresh take on something?
I think
Maybe
one.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, Baldur's Gate 3 is definitely a big one. Because yeah, I mean, Marvel Spider-Man, that's good, but that's just
it's Spider-Man again,
it's
right?
Spider-Man again. Resident Evil 4 is Resident Evil again. Tears of the Kingdom is is
It's Zelda
Zelda
again.
again. Alan Wake 2. I mean, most of these are sequels or like long running things. I mean, it is Baldur's Gate 3, but like they really kicked that genre up a whole notch.
Yeah.
They
And
added
that
the Vania to the Metroid.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's a genre, that particular style of game is something that like we've seen, but not to like it definitely feels a lot more fresh in what I've seen, right? And what I've heard. And there's a reason it's got high reviews. And as we kind of tie into one of our articles coming up, we'll kind of talk a little bit about that too, right? We're like a game that has a style of game that has been pretty consistent is seeing lackluster results long term, right? Whereas something like Baldur's Gate did have a different take and is seeing a lot of success. So really, I guess all I'm asking for here is
New genres.
I'd like to
We
see
want
things.
brand new innovative experiences, people.
Yeah. I want gaming has been around for years and years and years and years. Metroidvanias have been around for years and years and years. And we need something fresh
Check
to
out
come into market.
Hi-Fi Rush.
I don't have an Xbox, but it is on PC, right?
I'm pretty sure it's on PC and it's a Game Pass thing. So if you
Yeah.
sign up for Game Pass PC, you'll get it.
Yeah.
But that's pretty innovative. I played some of that. It didn't really catch me a whole lot. But I think I just wasn't in the right like mode for it at the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was fun and it is pretty looking and it
Well,
is different.
maybe one for me to look at.
Yeah. So this week, when we take a look at our articles, we're going to be taking a look at the PlayStation Portal. If you purchased one of those, would you consider that buying a console? Nintendo is getting some AO content, but get your mind out of the gutter. It's not anything like that. And then finally, we pull out our telescopes this week to see a falling Starfield.
I like that. All right. Well, first one is PlayStation Portal sales will be tracked as a console. And this is Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming. So this is more or less a leak um, I don't know if it's a leak or it's a tweet that got deleted. It's a tweet that got deleted, but basically saying that Sony, upon request, would like to see that the PlayStation Portal is tracked as a physical console, meaning not saying it's tracking as PS5 sales, but tracking as, a handheld, basically, right?
Do they even
Whereas
track how many controllers you sell?
Well, exactly. And so like when I really think about this is one of two things, right? Does this have unlocked potential that there could be some sort of handheld future with it? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know, maybe it's got some sort of storage functionality where you could put games on it and play in non Wi-Fi mode. I'm not sure. I haven't dug into it that much.
No, it
And
doesn't
maybe
have
that's
that
why they're
capability.
considering that, but like or it's just Sony looking at Nintendo from a handheld perspective of like the Switch Lite and saying, okay, well, this is doing pretty good. We want to go ahead and have this tracked as a console when realistically it's not. In my opinion, it's a peripheral. It's just an added, it's like the bone controller, right? The only difference is you got an LCD screen and it can connect via Wi-Fi to your PS5.
Yeah. I think that this is really just a metrics thing. Like, I think if they can get this counted as console sales, because it's just kind of in its own class of device at this time. I mean, it's like it reminds me of when the iPod Touch released alongside the iPhone. The The iPod Touch was an iPhone that you couldn't do any of the phone parts with, and it was dumb for that reason. And this is like, having a ROG Ally or a Steam Deck that can't play any games on it. It can just stream games to it. So I think they really want to just track these sales in a way that is comparable to what they might be able to project for a possible, successor to the Vita in the future, or some kind of handheld device from PlayStation that is standalone more so and capable. Because back when they were doing like the Vita and the PSP, we were still like in that age of, you have a console release, and then you have a Nintendo console release, and then you have a handheld version, and all three of these games are all completely different games by completely different studios. They may look and play different, have a different storyline, but they're all the same game on the cover, you know? So nowadays, they wouldn't have to do that anymore. They wouldn't have to compromise. They could just release a low grade, version of the same game, and it would still look great on that screen. But I think that this is really just a way to say, hey, look how many console sales that we've had, so that they can show that to their investors, because their investors probably don't know what the hell this is in comparison to any of those other devices. So it's just going to show them good numbers that they can justify maybe splitting and making another handheld device that's more capable in the future.
Yeah, so a couple things. So I'd heard, and I don't know if this is true. Like I said, I haven't dug into this thing too much because I don't know, it just doesn't seem like something I'm going to buy. But I'd heard as long as you're on a Wi-Fi connection, that you can act like, doesn't have to be your own. That as long as you're on a Wi-Fi connection, you can access your games and play them. I don't know if that's correct.
So,
Um,
I mean, you could do that. Like, I remember when I tried that with my Vita in the past, like you can have your PlayStation at home, and as long as you can get on a Wi-Fi and your home network can be on a Wi-Fi, like somehow you can stream it to where you are. But the thing is, it's really going to be based on how good that connection is and whether it's worthwhile to do. And from
yeah,
what I've heard, like you need to have like a really optimized setup for this to like really be effective.
yeah. So the other thing you had brought up is like analytics, like tracking it to determine the viability of like another handheld. I don't think they need that. I think you look at the success of 3DS, you look at the success of a Switch Lite, you look at the success of a Switch in general, and you know that there's a demand of some sort for a handheld market. And this portal device, like,
But
again, I
PlayStation
haven't,
failed in that market before.
they have. And, but at the same time, this portal device could have been much more. Yeah, you can stream it via Wi Fi, but like, open it up to where there's an option to play, I don't know, it's digital downloaded games and like you have access to it and there's a memory bank. You could download them
Then it
onto the
has to be
handheld.
way more than $200.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I don't know, man. Like the way that memory is set up right now, like
But like,
if you could stream things to it, like if there's some sort of way to just stream digitally to it,
but it doesn't have the processing power.
that's true. Yeah.
It would need to be a bigger device. And battery is an issue too. So like it's just all starts compounding. So it's like this is really, and I've heard people talk about this device and their use of it, people that have bought it, YouTubers that I watch. I could see myself like in my house if I had my PlayStation 5 downstairs. Well, in my upstairs office here, I've got like an old little TV that doesn't have great picture and not really the best way to sit down and like serious game unless I like move my chair over and pull up in front of that little TV. Like I'd be way better off playing in front of my screen there. But if I just wanted to have something on the TV and lay down on my couch, but I wanted to play my PS5 game, and I could just like have this like lightweight thing that doesn't have a giant battery in it and all this processing units that's going to make my arms really tired while I'm, laying down playing it, you know, like that seems like not really such a bad setup. Like for $200, it's a more reasonable ask than, all right, here's a Steam Deck competitor from us or a Switch competitor from us that's $400 and it
yeah.
has 3 hours of battery life.
I mean, I get it. At the same time, though, I'm just like, I feel like they could have done more.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
I mean, we'll see. We'll see if it goes from here into something more or not. Because, like you said, I think that they could have done more. I just don't think they were ready to take that step, especially because they just launched like PSVR 2 not terribly long ago. And I mean, that really still doesn't have any huge legs under it either.
yeah, I hadn't heard anything positive, and I haven't heard anything in general on it, but I haven't heard anything like positive, right? Like, oh, fantastic sales for PSVR 2 or
What
anything. And
games are they selling?
I've seen several that are like VR2 compatible, but I haven't seen anything that's like only VR2. Or I've
Yeah.
seen a couple, but not much. Um, and I kept going to that, in general, I think some of this comes down to just really poor marketing on Sony's part.
Yeah. I
You
mean, I
know,
don't see ads hardly ever in my life anymore, but
same.
I definitely don't see any Sony ads unless it's
I
like a game show.
I never see Sony ads, and I mean, I rarely see Nintendo ads as well. But yeah, I mean, like they're not on the streaming services that I use.
Mm.
Like I've got streaming services that have commercials. I never see ads for those games. Not even things like Madden, or like MLB The Show or anything. Like I just don't see them. So I wonder how much of this is laid out to like poor marketing and them trying to rely on existing fan bases to try and sell certain items versus like they really should be marketing this to a broader audience.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into Nintendo and them marketing to a broader audience. So I was going to make another joke, but I won't. So Nintendo is launching an adults only app for Switch Online in Japan. And this is Dominic Bozjak at Gamer Rant. And so this is basically, I mean, it sounds like when I first saw it, I was like, oh,
It's a
Japan.
clickbait.
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing, Japan? Like, why isn't this over here? Like, I'm confused. What's happening? Yeah, all it is basically because games like GoldenEye and Gemini Syndrome, and I guess you could say Conkers and stuff like that,
Jet
because
Force
those
Gemini.
game, huh?
Jet
Jet Force
Force
Gemini,
Gemini.
yeah, not Gemini Syndrome. Gemini Syndrome's a great band, actually. So listen to them if you've never heard them. They're actually pretty fantastic. So yeah, Jet Force Gemini. I don't know why I said Gemini Syndrome. I guess I just listened to him the other day.
Okay.
So basically, these games are rated Z, right? In Japan, so mature rating here in the United States. Now, GoldenEye, obviously, and Jet Force Gemini are not mature rated games in the United States, but they are in Japan. And so to get around
Tunic.
the lack of ability to sell these games or put them onto the online console, they've got an application that is specifically adults only so that 18 plus players in Japan can play these games. So like GoldenEye just released, I think earlier this year or late last year, I don't remember offhand, when it came on to Switch Online. It's now getting released in Japan as of the 30th of November. This will be happening. So now Japanese players will be able to play these titles because of this new application.
Yeah, I guess it really comes down to games that have shooting in it are heavily rated in Japan because they really appreciate the effect of gun violence. And then also, their divisions between access have to be clearly delineated. So they can't just have these, more mature rated games right there next to just a game that, any little old Timmy could pick up and play. Now, I think it's kind of ridiculous that looking back in time now, those things that were controversial then, like while they still carry those same themes for those ratings that they would be rated on if they were released now in a more modern take. But man, just like the idea of those being like mature games that should be separated just seems kind of far-fetched.
Hey, pun intended here. At least Japan is sticking to their guns,
Yep.
And that's the way that they've been. And I mean, you can't really fault them
I mean, I guess,
for sticking to that.
yeah, like I guess like Conquerors isn't like any less crass now just because it's old.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
like
even
that game
more
is
so.
still, yeah, that game is
The
still mature
shooting
rated.
itself, like, just there's nothing about 007 GoldenEye that reads as like, oh my god, this is extreme. Child could never handle this.
Yeah, it's like any of the like imagine like Spy Hunter, right? Like the
Yeah.
Spy Hunter on PS2. Like, is that mature rated? I don't know, but it's got gun violence. It's a car that shooting guns at other vehicles. So
No people died. There's sentient cars in this world.
that's true. Transformers, right? It's you're just defeating robots and dinosaurs and stuff. Like, don't worry about all the missiles being launched out of this giant robot. And Gundam, right? God forbid Gundam with laser beams and its gun violence. But yeah, throw in GoldenEye and a little golden gun, and all of a sudden it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate a country sticking to like its morals that it has, and ensuring, I would say, I hate to say safety, but ensuring the safety of a younger audience and not warping them, right? By creating or allowing certain
Have
forms of
you ever
content.
seen anime?
True, true. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Have
Like
you
when
ever
it comes
seen Full
to,
Metal Alchemist? Do you remember this? Do you remember the dog?
okay, that's a little different. That is human experimentation with genetics, and it's 100% different. I get it. Like they're sticking to their morals in terms of gun violence, and that's where that's where they've drawn the line in the sand on that,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't matter about panty vending machines and all that. They've drawn their line in the sand on guns. But I can appreciate it, and it's interesting that that's just kind of the decision. But yeah, I appreciate it. Okay, not too much more to talk about that. Let's talk about Starfield. So Starfield could be in trouble as player numbers have plummeted, and this is Ravi Sinha at Gaming Bolt. And so, yeah, basically, this game came out with like stellar reviews. Looking to put some quotation marks on that when it first came out, and good player base. I mean, it was like 300,000 plus players that were like on like each day, right? Active players each day, and that's plummeted. That's like 22,000 players now per day. And then reviews of this game have gone down as well to like a 5.6, I want to say, on Steam. And then it's like a 70% on like the actual Xbox Live reviews for this game. So Starfield in general, it was a critical success when it first came out. It has severely dropped recently from new players playing the game, and obviously a lack thereof online. And actually, this article goes into kind of talking about other Bethesda games that have come out. So Fallout 4, for example, is seeing a consistent about 15,000 people online each day. That peaked at around 400 something thousand when it first came out. And then Skyrim was about 300,000 or 225,000, I think, when it first came out. But that's actually seeing more day-to-day player activity online than that of Starfield. So when you start thinking about like long-term success of these games, some of the factors that you have to put in are, is a game good? Are players still buying it, right? That's one piece, right? But the other factor is, are people still actually playing it? And the answer right now is that given when it came out, the fact that Skyrim is 12 years old and they've got 25,000 people playing it, like more than Starfield, which just came out, 3 months ago, I think it was.
Mhm.
That's pretty drastic. And the same thing with
Yeah.
Fallout 4. Fallout 4 came out on PS4 and Xbox One, right? And you still have 15,000, 7,000 less players a day playing those titles, right? And it came out much longer, much further before, Starfield. So I would say early on, unless something drastic changes, like, of course, a new DLC, we'll see how that kind of ticks things up. Starfield seems to be a failure right now.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of people playing the older games, I saw somebody kind of take a look at it, and it already had a pretty high recurring player base still for like Skyrim. And then you could see some of those players leave away to go play Starfield and then stop playing Starfield and probably reverting back over to there now. So I think that, the amount of mods and stuff that come out and, that community, especially for Bethesda games, is huge. And that's what gives games like Skyrim its super long legs to just keep running forever and ever on sales and recurring players, because people can go back and experience that game so differently, like, than they ever could have back upon release. And that'll be the same for Starfield eventually.
Yeah. So one thing I kind of was questioning, right, as I was reading this article earlier, is how much of his drop off is attributed to the fact that this came out on Game Pass. And you as a gamer, like unless you went out and bought the game, like straight out bought it, and now you are invested in it, 60 bucks, 70 bucks, whatever it is that you paid for it. That's a game where you're like, I need to get my full value out of this because, I paid X amount of money. Whereas, yeah, they had a ton of people playing it on day one in the first month, first 2 months, whatever it may be. And now we've seen this kind of plummet down. How much is that attributed to like people like yourself, where you played it 18 hours or 20 hours, whatever it may be?
I think it was like 15 hours or something, but yeah, I kind of bounced off of it. Like, I'm really not surprised that a lot of people have really come around on it, because I certainly, was not over the moon for it.
But how much of that, though, is tied to the fact that you're paying a monthly subscription and you have access to all of these other games and you don't feel like you have to be invested in Starfield because,
Well, I've never felt that way about it.
well, yeah, that's true.
I'm not going to play a bad game just because I already spent money on it.
Yeah, but some people are inclined to move forward and play that, right? Like, or they will sell the game immediately, right? A physical game, they'll sell it, get rid of it. So there was a consistent player base for a while now, but I do question if, because there's a subscription-based model where you can kind of just pick this game up, demo it essentially for a period of time, call it a day, and then move on to the next thing and not beat it, if that's what we're seeing, right? Or people play the individual campaign portion of it, finished, done, putting it down, nothing else beyond that. So I do think the subscription model is one of the main reasons why we're seeing such a dip in these active players versus things like Skyrim, which, people have outside. It's available to PlayStation users, available obviously Steam. They've likely purchased this game, they're invested in it, or they just really enjoy Skyrim. I think the subscription model is kind of screwing Starfield in this aspect.
Yeah, and I think that this has got to be real disappointing back at Bethesda HQ. I mean, they didn't get the Game of the Year nominee. The public is really starting to turn around. I mean, they've gone into mixed on Steam. Their old games are outperforming their new games. I mean, there's really so much that Bethesda was so proud of, what they were putting out with this giant game, and it was going to be pushing them in a whole new direction, but they just really lost so much of what made their game special to me, and probably to a lot of other people, that I think that this is going to be a real look in the mirror kind of moment. And I don't know, I know that Todd Howard, I think, is going to stick around for at least the next whatever the next Elder Scrolls game is going to be, but they really better make that super special, because Fallout 4 was not a big hit for me. Fallout 76 was not a big hit for most people. Starfield has not been a big hit for most people. Like, the last really, really good thing they did was Skyrim.
Yeah.
And
Fallout New Vegas.
They didn't do New Vegas.
Oh, yeah, you're right. They didn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, Fallout 3 was a big new change to the Fallout franchise and brought us into this kind of modern era. But, I mean, it's been a long time that Bethesda's been riding on the success of these franchises that they've established and just not putting out the best real games for them, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens with the new Elder Scrolls when it does come out. I think we've heard that one is not going to be multi-platform. And again, is that what's holding its back? Is that what is holding this back? Right.
We'll see in 2027 or whatever.
Yeah, more like 2030, I bet. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. So far, can we say that the acquisition of Bethesda has paid dividends? Doesn't seem like it so far.
I mean, if they're counting the success of how many subscribers they got to Game Pass, because they did say it was the largest subscription bump to that they've had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's their metric for success, then maybe.
Well, I guess I would want to see more details on when they consider subscriptions, how many of his subscriptions are like first month is $1, or is it a month-to-month subscription versus a pay in full subscription for the year, right? So, I mean, if we're talking for the year, then yeah, I could see where that's super successful because now you've got people for 70, $120, whatever it may be. But now all of those people, yeah, you got that big bump. But when the next big game comes out, are you going to see as big of a bump?
Yeah.
You know, maybe not. How many of those people are going to fall off? How many of those people are doing the Disney Plus thing? We're
Well,
like,
they did
oh,
release a
but
bunch of good games on Game Pass this month.
yeah, I mean, I get it. But like, how many of those people are also, doing the Disney Plus thing where it's like, oh, a new season of whatever's come out. Let me subscribe for a day, or a month, watch everything, and then be done with it, right? Like,
Mhm.
how much are you truly getting revenue wise from that? Like, your subscriptions are going to fluctuate, and we've seen with streaming services that's obviously been the case. And I don't think that Microsoft is necessarily safe from that,
Yeah.
right? So we'll see. And I think this is definitely going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye out for in the future. All right. Moving on to the inflation deflation segment. Tunic on the Switch. So this was developed by Isometric Games, or Isometric Corp Games, sorry. Published by Finji. It was designed by Andrew Scholdice. I at first thought it said Soldice, and I'm like, dude, has the best last name ever, but Scholdice is still as cool. It was released in September of 2022, and it is an action adventure game with a reception around the 9. 9 out of 10, that is.
Yeah.
So this is very much like old school Zelda. Like
Yeah.
it's
So
great.
you wake up as a small fox on a beach, and then it's just find your way through the world, just like a classic, old school Zelda. You've got literally nothing to guide you except for these little guidebook pages that you pick up in your quest along the way. Really, it's a crazy world with so much to explore and discover, and you'd be so amazed at how much is really in front of you and what you can really do. But until you find out the secrets that the world has, you'll keep surprising yourself as you progress and discover exactly what you were capable of the whole time.
So for me, this was genre changing in what I played. You've got the old style Zelda game, right? But mixed in with kind of a top down Dark Souls style of gameplay in which you are consistently dodging enemies. You're trying to get in your strikes. You're trying to understand their patterns, which is, similar to a lot of games, but it felt very Dark Souls esque in what we were playing. It is difficult at the very beginning when you're trying to beat things with a stick and you have giant hamsters or gerbils trying to swing at you with swords. So that to me was very cool. And then they have like this bonfire mechanic as well that I noticed where you've got, you go up to this like essentially a fox statue and it turns day into night back into day and you take this long rest, all creatures come back, your health is fully there, and you continue progressing through the story with all enemies kind of regenerated, right? So for me, in what I experienced, I love the mechanic of finding these pages. It gives you something to kind of look forward to as you're playing. The world is so like it's a beautiful game. I mean, I love all the geometric shapes that kind of build
Mhm.
up the world. I love the flow of the gameplay. The controls are very fluid to me. And the music, I mean, it's great. Like the music on this game is fantastic. It really sets the tone. And then there's certain areas where you go into. So for example, if you go into like not a dungeon, but if you go into like a cave or anything along those lines, the music shuts off and you have all of the ambience of the actual cave, like the fire and the wind and things like that are going for it. It looks like the world is not like fresh, like as in you're the first person to step foot here in this world. There's open treasure chests around. There's things that have occurred. The enemies look like they're definitely on guard for something has been here prior. Um, so yeah, I'm really enjoying like being immersed in this overall experience in comparison to other games of this genre, this action adventure style top down. So I do think this is definitely for me game changer in what I'm experiencing.
Yeah, this game is so incredible. I played it last year. I didn't finish it, I don't think. But I got pretty far into it, and it's just amazing at how it layers itself and lets itself open up to you over time. And for an experienced player kind of coming back to this, I was able to use some things that I remembered from the first time and just messing around. Like, one thing I feel like this game really encourages you to do is to mess around with the controls and like really try to get an idea of like what you can do, because once you figure out how to do certain things, you really discover like whole different routes that you could go in this game. Like there's a way to get a sword that's not the traditional way to get a sword, and you could go that direction and just kind of like start the game off that kind of much quicker in a certain sense. um but yeah, it's a beautiful game. It's got so much that I like about, you know, self learning, even though that's like a hard part of games for me. Like, I could never go back and play like the original Zelda game and just like try to light every bush on fire to find the secret things and stuff like that. Like, those games are way too obscure for me. But this one, especially like collecting the pages of the guidebook, just feels so good. And you have the physical copy of it because it came with the release that you got, which I'm so jealous of. But like that, if you look through there, that would like ruin half the stuff for you.
Yeah, I haven't messed with the guidebook at all. And what I was playing, I just, and we talked about that a while back. Like when I did decide, hey, I'm finally going to play this game or mess around with it, that I'm not going to look at the guidebook. I'm just going to unlock the stuff and just kind of fully experience this world. And
I guess guidebook is wrong. Player manual.
player manual, sure, we'll go with that. It's the manual. But yeah, I think it's really cool. So I mean, looking at the brass tacks on this, it's complete in box right now is running at $30.22. It peaked at $42 in September of this year. It is trending down in price because it is a newer title. Loose copy is $28.72 right now. It peaked at $30.53 earlier this year in October, and then that is holding in current price. Digital console, you can get this for $29.99. It's currently marked down to $29.99 normally. It's marked down to $20.99 until December 4th on digital console. PC, it's $29.99 normally. It's marked down to $20.99 until September 28th. So you got another day or so to pick that up. And then right now, GameStop and Target have this for $20.99 for physical copies. My version I got is, let's see if it says on the outside. It does not. But I got mine directly from Fangamer when it came out. And it comes with all the little goodies and like a foil cover and, slip cover and all that. So I was really happy with what I got. I think mine was like $45 for everything. But look, at $20.99 right now, in what I've experienced and what I hope to continue experiencing and what you've played so far, I think that this is, and given the current reviews, a 9 out of 10 for this game, right? It is a little more not game breaking, but it is game breaking, right? In terms of what we've seen in this genre of gameplay.
Yeah.
I think $20.99 is a great price.
Oh yeah, this is a steal. I mean, I would have picked this up if it wasn't like something that I just already had on Game Pass. Like, I would love to have this for the Switch as like portable game.
Yeah.
It's so great. I can't recommend this game enough. Definitely. I would say this is one of those kind of games that, I mean, at a reasonable price. I'm not going to say at any price, but at a reasonable human price, it would always be deflated. I think it just is such a valuable game to play through and get the experience of, because it really has that like element of discovery and learning how to play games again that is just incredible, I think.
Yeah. And normally a $30 price point, I think I would of course pay that again. If I hadn't picked this up, the version I have, I would absolutely pick this up for $30. I would absolutely pick it up at $20.99.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So deflated.
All right. So next episode, it's going to be one of our, we're going to record in advance and probably do maybe a top 5 of something. Maybe we'll do a starter kit showdown. We haven't decided yet, but we'll release that this next week. And then
content.
Yeah, we'll get some new content in there. And then in the future, we'll be playing some, what is it, Sonic Spinball, I think is what you want to play.
Yeah, I do want to play that sometime in the future. Hey, why don't you guys leave us a comment? Let us know if there's anything in particular you would like us to do, like top 5 list on, or I know that we still have, I mean, we're working our way through the starter kit showdowns. We're kind of starting to run low on consoles here, I think, or at least ones that we could do at like some kind of a reasonable budget. So let us know.
Yeah, next one is going to be Vectrix collecting on a budget. How much can you get for under $1,000? Not much. That's the hint right there. All right. Well, this has been episode 162 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.